welcome to my channel. If you hear a loud noise in the background, well, that's the air conditioner because it's hot. Today we have a Jane Doe found in Buena Vista, Colorado, October 21st, 1989. Female, they're not sure of her race. It says adult pre-60, cannot estimate height, cannot estimate weight. A single mandible was found underneath a porch of a residence north of Buena Vista in Chaffee County. Now I'm wondering, did they take cadaver dogs and go check the area? Did they check and see if there were any, if somebody might have been buried under the house or not far away? I don't know. Could there have been more bones anywhere? But I don't know if they checked or not. And then you wonder who lived in the house. Was the house, did somebody else used to live in it? Who were the neighbors, Things like that. How did that bone get there, right? So to me, it could be anybody. So I've got a long list of people that might go through them all. I'm not sure if I'm going through them all or not, but let's take a look at what we got. Because it's October 21st, 1989. And then, did they have a dog? Could the dog have dug up the bone from somebody in a shallow grave nearby and put it underneath the porch? So many questions. So we have a missing person in 1980. That's 9 years prior, Fairplay, Colorado. Patricia and Lily. And how far away was that? That's about 40 minutes away, I believe. 5'2", 43 years old. It just says she was last seen on Bison Mountain. Why does it say 94? Maybe that's an area? I don't know. Brown hair. It doesn't give us any information. And I think it's about 40 minutes away. I'm not sure exactly. And then the next one I have is Barbara Wilson, who actually went missing in 1989. Brighton, Colorado. And that's about 2.5 hours away. 21 years old. 5'3", brown hair, brown eyes. It just says she went missing from Brighton, Colorado. It doesn't give us any information. Very young. And the next one I have is about 2 hours away. Patricia Ann Gutierrez went missing in 1989 in April. She was only 5 foot tall. Pueblo, Colorado. No information once again. Just last seen in Pueblo. Why don't they give us any information? No information of clothing or any, just nothing. 24 years old only. The next one I have, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Last name is Sperry. She went missing Colorado Springs, Colorado. That's less than 2 hours away, about an hour and 45 minutes away. 1987. Possibly wearing a blue sweatshirt and white high-top sneakers. She was driving a gray and white Pontiac Grand Am. Joseph A. Sperry, a soldier stationed at was visiting family in Florida at the time. She disappeared. And he'd also taken their 3-month-old daughter. I don't know, that seems weird to me that you would take the 3-month-old daughter away from the mother and not take the mother with you and go all the way to Florida. So I don't know. And so I'm going to skip to the next one, but there's the information we have. She went missing in 1987. So the next one I have is Sherry Bynum, 1987, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Dropped off in the area of Dublin and Vincent, Colorado Springs after a football game. Never been heard from again. Very few details in her case. Georgia Lee Roner, 1986, Pagosa Springs, Colorado, 36 years old. She worked at a convenience store in New Mexico. And hold on. So Sperry was about an hour and 45 minutes away that she went missing from there. And the next one, Sherry Bynum was an hour and 45 minutes away. And Georgia Lee Roner was about almost 3 hours away. This one's almost 3 hours away. So this one, her employer, who went by his middle name, gave conflicting accounts about her disappearance. He stated he drove her to the airport so she could fly to California. After her disappearance, her employer and another person went to her apartment and cleaned out all her belongings, including makeup and toiletries, which sounds like they're trying to hide something. And then he shot his estranged wife in Kingman, Arizona, and she survived and charged him with attempted murder. And then he hung himself in his jail cell while awaiting trial. We have Penny McLeese, 1985, Aurora, Colorado, and that's about 2.5 hours away. A lot of these are around 2 to 3 hours away. So she was having marital problems, custody issues. Sandra Lee Killian, Lakewood, Colorado, only 31 years old, had an argument with her husband and disappeared. This one is Stephanie and Dranov. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I'm sorry. Dernovzek. Yeah, I don't know how to do it. Dernovzek. I don't know. Anyway, she's only 27 years old. Very beautiful young lady. And she was last seen leaving her home of West Virginia Avenue near Kipling Street. She was driving her live-in boyfriend's vehicle, which was found abandoned. I don't know. You know, it's crazy. Look at all these different people that just were missing and they haven't found out what happened to them. And you don't know. If they got in a fight with their boyfriend or their husband, that's the only suspect we have. That's who we're going to assume. Or all of a sudden they're not there. They're out of town. They're somewhere else. I wasn't there. I wasn't the last person to see them. You know, you're going to think, ooh, maybe they did something. But we don't really know. Right? Because, I don't know, it's just creepy that so many people went missing. So, you know, we don't know if it's a serial killer. We don't know what happened. It's easy to judge when, you know. And this lady, Jennifer Ann Douglas, 17 years old, 1984, called her mother, said she was going for a bike ride. So, and she was riding her bike. She had a ballet class, and she was looking forward to her performance. Scheduled a week after she disappeared. Poof, she's gone. So, yeah. Elizabeth Ann Miller, 1983, Idaho Springs, Colorado, 14 years old. She was jogging. She disappeared. She was jogging in the park. And if you want to pause this and read it all, you can. Yeah. It's pretty bad. I'll scroll down and pause it. So if you want to pause it. Well, I'm not going to pause it long enough for you to read it all, but it's really sad. 14 years old. She's just a child. She's just a child. She's only 14 years old. That is a child, you know. The next one we have, Pamela Lynn Neal, 22 years old, Englewood, Colorado. Last seen at her workplace. Oh, a bank. Oh, yeah, she went home for lunch and she didn't live that far away and she disappeared. It looked like she had just sat down. Like she just sat down to eat and poof, she was gone. I don't even think she got to eat her lunch. I don't know what happened to her. Next one we have is Victoria Lenore Sanchez, Rocky Ford, Colorado. And I didn't go through. Yeah, so far they're about 2 and 3 hours away. I don't see. Patricia Ann Lilly was 39 minutes away, and I think I have her in here twice. But the rest of them seem like they were. Peggy Ann Reynolds is only like an hour and 13 minutes away, but the year is so different. So Victoria Lenore Sanchez went missing in 1882, only 15 years old. Oh, and they were walking, right? They were in school, they were students, there were 2 of them, and they were walking. And I think there was a serial killer that used to pick up girls, sometimes like 2 of them, so I don't know. He was a truck driver or something, but I'm not sure. But they both disappeared at the same time, so they thought they ran away. But then they've never been heard from again. Then we have Barbara Jean Bauman. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing these correctly. She went missing from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Her son was only a week old. He had died recently. They said she was despondent. But still, you think that something would turn up, right? She was on a mountain road. I don't know. The next one I have is Beverly Jean McCool, 1977. Left her residence located in Lakewood, Colorado. Not been seen or heard from since. And I think about the years and I think, well, if it's older, then maybe, but if a dog found the bone and it was out somewhere in the yard or a little ways away, what if it was raining? What if it was raining and it was in a shallow grave and I don't know. Rebecca Ann Kellison, Denver, Colorado, 1976. Because I don't know if it was, I just don't understand it, where it came from. Last seen in Denver, Colorado. She had gone out to nightclubs. Allegedly, between 8 and 9 a.m., she left her sister's residence and she was going to her own home in Aurora, Colorado. So how was she getting there? She didn't have a car, so maybe she hitchhiked. Why wouldn't she wait for them to wake up to give her a ride? I don't know. Yeah. They said her identification were found buried in a rural farmer's field in Adams County, Colorado. Ooh, and since then it's been paved over. There was somebody found in Adams, Colorado. I think there was remains found in Adams, Colorado. I wonder if the remains found in Adams County could have been her. Denise Oliverson, missing from Grand Junction, Colorado. Only 24 years old, 1975, and they got a picture of Ted Bundy. So then it makes you wonder if Ted Bundy's picture's in here with her. Did he kill anybody else, or is he a suspect in anybody else's case? But this said she had an argument with her husband, and then she disappeared and went for a bike ride. Anytime I hear they had an argument with their husband, you wonder if they lost their temper and something happened and they didn't mean. You get in an argument with somebody who's physical. You don't know if they're physical. You don't know if they lost their temper. And then what are they going to do? They're going to panic and they're going to hide it because they're not going to want to go to prison. So, but Ted Bundy confessed to her murder, but I don't know. I think that serial killers confess to crimes they don't commit sometimes. I find it hard to believe a serial killer. So anytime I hear they got in a fight with their husband or their boyfriend, I always wonder, oh, did they do it? And so, and some of them might have done it and some of them might not have. You just never know. It's possible they could have got an argument and stormed out and something happened to them from somebody else, but you just never know. Because we weren't there, so how are we going to know? Julie Cunningham, Vile, Colorado, 1975. There's a picture of Bundy again, so maybe. She worked at a ski shop, part-time ski instructor. She lived in the area for several years. She left her apartment to visit a local tavern. She's never been heard from again. Wow. I don't know. Bundy stated he lured her into his vehicle by posing as an injured skier, which is possible. There's no way of knowing. And then we have Margaret Renee Armbrust. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that right or if it's not spelled correctly. Golden, Colorado, 25 years old. Thought it would be like armburst, but it looks like breast. I don't know. Her and her husband moved to from California to an apartment in Colorado in 1973. They sent letters to their church members back in San Diego to come get their belongings and their puppy. Why would they send letters for them to come all the way to Colorado from California to get their stuff? And shortly after they both went missing? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Something strange. I don't know. Colleen Burgess, 1974. Left work at Frito-Lay in Denver and never returned home. About 1 week later, her close friends received a letter allegedly from her indicating she had a terminal illness and left. Oh, come on. No. No, she's got 4 children and a husband. She's not going to... Yeah. Okay, Peggy Ann Reynolds, 1974, Breckenridge, Colorado. She was only about an hour and 15 minutes away. 21 years old. Boating. She was on a rowboat with 3 other people. It capsized. And it says she was presumed drowned. So that's not going to be her, right? And then 1967, this lady Elaine Joyce Bobber went missing in 1967 from Denver, Colorado. Left home, went to visit a male friend, telling her teenage daughter she'd be back soon. He says she left with another man. Yeah, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. But Marilyn, I wasn't there, so I don't have the right to be the judge of what happened or what didn't happen. Marilyn Joyce Pitwood, Pueblo, Colorado, 21 years old, 1965. Last seen in 1965 in Pueblo, Colorado. Doesn't give us any other information. Western clothing. This one's all the way in 1955. Oh, she was with somebody else in a vehicle. She had medical problems. It said I think they were near a casino. It says Gold Coin Cafe. He said they went for a drive. Their car skidded off the road. So there's a story that went through it. And we don't know what happened to her. And so, 1955, she was only 33 years old. And then there's a lady that was in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. And I was thinking, what if it's somebody from a state nearby that was hitchhiking through Colorado or something like that. And so she went missing in 1986, and I decided to include her because she had a husband that traveled between Colorado and Utah on business. So, and she was 28 years old. So I thought, I'm going to include her, and that will remind me to mention her and the fact that there might be other women or ladies that are in a state nearby that might have been hitchhiking or traveling through or something like that. Because there's so many different people it could be. And I wonder who lived there. And I wonder who lived nearby. So many questions, right? Who used to live there, It's just interesting. So, if you have any information whatsoever, because I've heard stories from people who have told me that they knew of somebody that had killed somebody and buried them in their yard, they thought, and they said they called the police, and the police wouldn't listen to them and didn't believe them, and they didn't know who it was, but they had, So if you have any information whatsoever, contact authorities, and if they're not listening to you, contact them again. Write them a letter, email them. If you have any information whatsoever, please contact authorities and let them know. I feel like people drink and they talk, and maybe the other people don't believe them, and then they get sober and they try to say, oh, no, it never happened, I was just talking. But if you have any information, even if it's hearsay, it's not like you're going to testify in a court of law, you should let authorities know. If you've been in jail and you've heard somebody talking, let them know. Let them know it's hearsay, And it's better for them to have more information than less, right? So, and if you have any loved ones or family members or friends that went missing, check NamUs. Make sure that they have a NamUs profile. Make sure they actually have a missing case file. And the investigators, if they do, the investigators should have put them on NamUs. Also, see if you try to put them on Charlie Project and the Doe Network. I think you can do that yourself. And that way, they're out there. The information's out there. And that goes as far as any of these missing people. If you have any information at all about any of these missing persons case files, who their friends were, where they spent time at, where they worked, just any information. It's been a lot of years. And maybe you gave the information to investigators years ago, but then you don't know how they stored the information. They could have stored it in a basement. They could have stored it in a storage unit. If it was in a basement, there could have been, plumbing could have burst. They could have lost the information. They could have stored it in different ways and then gotten rid of the paperwork after so many years, or try to put it in some kind of computer software program or word processing program. And maybe they don't have the information anymore. So the more information you can give them, the better. And don't forget to pray for their loved ones and their families, because these are all people who their loved ones and their families, they don't have closure. They don't know what happened to them. And feel free to leave comments and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.